Well, hello and welcome to the football preview here for 2025 here. Ray Halbrook from Livestream STL Media. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day, and we are excited to turn the page from the summer and start taking a look into the 2025-2026 season, especially when it comes to football here. And Jeff Whitener's along with me here. Jeff, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. It's football season, baby. I'm ready and raring to go.
Absolutely.
We'll have some good times this year. Obviously, we've got our Friday night blitz coming up. Extensive coverage, 2-3 teams weekly going out covering local games for you all. We're going to have our after show afterwards, a call-in show, video show with our coaches, and try to get some insight there from the games that night. Then next week, as the next week rolls around, of course, with Matt Bates, we have our Upon Further Review show. Well, we'll go through some stats and scores from the week and do a little more in-depth further analysis. So we've got you covered all the way around here in our region for high school football.
Continuing our football preview here with our large schools, and we have DeSoto Dragons today here with Coach Rutch Schmidt from the DeSoto Dragons. How you doing, Coach?
Good.
Awesome. And great to have you in our studio today. You brought some gifts, so we appreciate that. And we'll get that up around somewhere here in the Wall of Fame, or maybe even behind us here down the road here. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Looking forward to this, Coach, and we're glad to have you in. That we could share a little air conditioning for you on this nice warm day. So
It's appreciated. I know I was talking with Coach Bear on the transition in here today, and it was we were both talking about our morning practices and how sweltering it was.
yeah, a little challenging right now, but Coach, want to talk before we start talking about this year and what we hope and expect to see out of the Dragons. Let's kind of briefly recap last season. 5-5 overall record, 1-3 in the Mississippi Area Red Conference. You led the Dragons to their first 5-win season since 2018. Lost to Festus in the first round of the Class 4 district playoffs, District 1 playoffs. Lost approximately 15 players to graduation, if my math checks out. I believe you're going to open up the season on the road at Freeburg this year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Freeburg.
They came down last year, I believe. So, and this is your third season at the helm of DeSoto, 35th year coaching overall.
Yes.
My goodness. So we're very, very happy to have Coach Schmidt in. And Coach, kind of just take us through last season a little bit and how you hope to build on last year's momentum.
You know, you never know what you have until you start. Certainly that first night when we played Freeburg and you look at your opponent down at the other end of the field, and they were much superior football team as far as their physical makeup than we were. They turned the ball over 5 times that night, and we took advantage of their opportunities as a football team. And in the end, we won a close football game. And I think that a win for those kids, but B, winning a close game set the trajectory for the rest of the season. There was a belief there. And it started with those seniors that you spoke about that graduated, and then there was some leadership involved there. And it was a fun group to be around, a fun group to coach, because they have been through so much, and each week was like a new learning experience for them when this thing started to get going in the right direction. We get to Perryville week 2. We were the closest game Perryville played all year.
Right.
And we lose that contest. And, obviously, you wish you would have had that one back. Had you had that one back, maybe you're hosting a game week 4 in the playoffs. We don't, it's neither near there or near here, but nonetheless, that was, you stump your toe and then you get into the North County contest. We didn't fare very well that week. And then, you get in the meat and potatoes. We play North County, Hillsborough, and Festus right in a row in our conference, and those are 3 very good football teams. So as we go through that process of competing each week with those kids, you're looking for a positive, as you go in and out of those games, and some leadership. And I felt like we took a big step in competing against Hillsborough last year, albeit that, Preston Brown didn't play that game. I'm very mindful of that, but still, nonetheless, when you're I believe 17-14 halftime. That said a lot about the character of our kids and the purpose of why we were playing that game. Um, Obviously, still bothers me as well as the seniors that graduated. The Festus loss, we just, for lack of better terms, we didn't show up that night, and I brunt the responsibility as a leader on that one. And again, when you look back at it, I don't know what we could have done different. Festus was just a superior football team that night. Oh, the whole year. When you play in a conference that has two state champions back to
Back
back
to back,
years
right?
representing class four, I think that says a lot about the competition you're
Right.
playing.
Right.
Then we get into the Windsor contest, homecoming night, and kids played very well that night. Then we get into the Potosi contest, Fredericktown. Was a great night down at Fredericktown and then Herculaneum. Then we circle back and we draw North County again to play in the playoffs. And we have to go down to North County and play a dear friend of mine who I have just the utmost respect for, and Coach Jones. Uh, Getting the kids programmed, we were healthy at that point. We had nothing to lose and everything to gain, and we go down there and we lose that game by 10 points. We made a big statement, I think, as a football program, our growth during the course of the football season. And just, I use this hashtag Dragon State of Mind. This is how our kids think, used to think, and this is where we want them to believe they're at. And that really was part of the process. It's even on the back of the helmet to get us to where we need to be.
That's state of mind. I like that. And in your art, you're trying to reprogram that state of mind, and you did a pretty good job last year on the way there, for sure. But Ray, you want to hit number
Yeah.
two?
Yeah. So you lost your quarterback as a senior here, Austin Missy, to graduation here. You're retaining folks like Brenton Drummond and Eli Tebow in your backfield there. We're talking about sophomore Cannon Kisner. Is he ready to step in, or is there right now a quarterback, competition going on with that?
No, there's no competition. Cannon's going to become our starting quarterback. He took that role as soon as the season ended, put a tremendous amount of time in the offseason preparing for this season. Has probably the better understanding of the playbook than anybody on the staff. He's a 4.0 kid.
Oh,
I mean, he's
Yeah.
a very cerebral, learning kid.
Wow.
You don't have to tell him twice. He's a very coachable kid. He's an honor to be around. He's just a sophomore, and he's going to be an electric kid. He really is. I've been around a lot of kids, but his first step in the ground. You're going to have to square him up. I mean, he can run the ball. He's throwing the ball better as we've gotten deeper into the summer, and I only expect that to continue to become better for us as a football team. But we're trying to surround him with all the pieces that we've got to put him in a position to be successful, and he's done a great job for us so far.
Great.
fantastic. We'll look forward to that. Now, speaking of Drummond and Tebow, they were also your leading tacklers on the team last year. Those two, Levi Huck. Who else do you hope to see stepping up and having a big season for you on the defensive side of the ball?
Corey Flack, another great kid that we have in the secondary. Jackson Turnbow, um, Payson Casey. Our secondary, our back end of our defense, we've talked about it as a staff. I feel like is our strength of our defense. They're pretty athletic kids, and they've been growing. They've been a young group the last 2 years. So now we're getting to the point now where there's some maturity there. Damian Pogue, another one to add to that mix. They're athletic and they're very coachable. Coach Sobel does a great job. Coach Howland with that group of kids. And I'm excited to see how they perform for us this year.
Well, excited to see it too.
Yeah, excellent. Give us some players, maybe kind of that unsung hero, or players you don't get mentioned, don't get the attention that you feel like they deserve, for the value that they bring to the Dragon team here.
Colin Barton, an offensive guard. Braden McAnally, who was hurt last year, missed all of last year with the knee injuries, back as a senior. He's been a tackle. We moved him to center. He's going to be a big contributor for us in the offensive line. As we move forward, we've got a lot of young offensive linemen. That was a thing. You look at practice for us, typically in the past, that offensive line group has been 10 or 12, 14 kids. Now they're 25, and there's some big kids there. We got a lot of young kids that are, they're not athletic yet, but once Coach Sobel get them in an off season,
Yeah.
we'll get the ankle, knees, and hips bent and moving and get the oil can out, so to speak. But they're stiff, but boy, they got motors and they're very coachable kids that are really fun to be around and put us in a great position in the future.
Excellent.
That's fantastic to hear. Now, I have a question for you that's a little outside of what I would normally ask most of the coaches, and this is based on just your experience and being doing this for a while. You obviously have sort of a coaching tree, coaches that have gone on assistants years. How do you, what kind of professional development do you encourage for your assistant coaches and support you give them? And has that process changed over the years at all?
So, I mean, I think every staff goes about skinning that cat differently, and a lot of it's depending upon school districts and the resources. At DeSoto, you get one clinic.
Yeah.
So we go up in the city to the Glacier Clinic, and it's really, that clinic is more of a getting out and meeting other coaches type clinic. There might be a few speakers in 2 days that really deal with what we do. And it's a great question because my first year, I didn't have an opportunity to coach my coaches.
Right.
We did it on the run. I was coaching kids and coaches in a 1-9 season. We didn't catch up until the end of the season.
Wow.
So when the end of the season came, that's when I started to sit down and discuss what, this is what this really should look like.
Sure.
So we collaborate. And the thing about it is we're a smaller school. So a lot of our coaches coach 3 sports, 2 sports. I don't get the time to pull them aside and say, hey, let's talk about this, or we're having a meeting. I expect you to be there because they've got another sport to coach.
Sure.
So I work with what we have.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get into last year. That 5-5 season was a direct result of a lot of things, but I think one of those things was the collaboration with the coaches in the off season and doing that catching up and coaching and mentoring what I felt like I needed to do. And then them talking to me about their needs and wants, and their opinions. You have to listen to that and take that in.
Yeah.
So knowing that and really looking at what the big picture of what we got coming in talent, just a lot of the good things going on for us, I said, let's go down to Dublin, Georgia. I'm going to take you guys to Dublin, Georgia, and we're going to go down there because we're going to go see an old friend of mine that runs a clinic where all the schools there are wing T schools.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And what people don't realize is when you go to a specific clinic that it's just about the wing T, those coaches are willing to give you as much information as you want. I'm from Missouri. They'll never see us on a schedule.
Going to compete.
Yeah. Right.
And coach, what do you need? How much do you need?
Right.
And they'll sit down till you fall asleep at night talking to you.
Sure.
I took some of my staff members at Festus down there one time. This was my 4th trip down there, and I took my entire staff. It was, I'll sum up as Coach Sobel said. The first night was a half night, and we were having dinner and a drink, and he says to me, Coach, this is a religious experience. I feel like I'm sitting on the front row of church. I said, I try to explain to him just how in-depth this thing becomes, because you got wing T under center, you got wing T spread, wing T gun, wing T pistol, a defensive room on how to defend the wing T.
Oh, wow.
So my defensive guys go slip in that. So we spread out. We don't, and I don't tell, there's certain coaches I'll say, hey, will you go listen for this? But generally, let's just grab as much information as we can and bring it together at the end of the day or at lunch or at dinner. And it has truly helped us mold and shape what we're doing at DeSoto this year. My practice schedule, or I'm going to call it ours because of the partnership with the staff. But, I was telling Coach Sobel last week, I said, our practice schedule we get more done in practice than I've ever been a part of. There's no downtime. We don't have to condition. We're in and out. We have their attention span, and we get a lot of work done. And we don't pound on each other for 3 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the part of staying healthy and keeping your kids fresh.
Right. Right.
That's much like Coach Bear said,
Yeah.
get in out and do your work, and you minimize that risk.
Well, and we kind of have in our own clinic out there before I came in here because I was like, what do you guys do? I said, on Thursday, we don't have to do pregame in the afternoon. We come in the morning at 6 o'clock, and we're down at by 6:40.
Mhm.
And I go, gives you 12 extra hours off your legs.
Yep.
And he goes, what do you, and he looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, this was something I didn't get to do when I was at Festus. This was something I shared with the staff at Hillsboro. And I love Bill Saharsky to the core. Bill and we collaborated on a lot of things while I was there. And I did what I was asked to do. When he asked my opinion, I shared what I thought could help us
Mhm.
become a better football team. And when I shared that with him, I remember it was, he was worried about the pushback from the kids. I said, the kids won't be the pushback. It'll be your staff, our staff, because we've never done this before.
Mhm.
It's something different.
Yeah.
And so when we did it the first time, I remember I was telling Nick, I said, I got home from work at 2:50. My wife goes, and I was headed right back out the door. And she goes, whoa, whoa. She goes, what are you doing? She goes, I thought you were home for I said, I just want to run out to Hillsboro real quick. She goes, for what? I want to see if this theory proves. So I went by the coach's office first. Bill was leaving, heading home.
Yeah.
I go across the highway to the weight room, and I remember seeing Coach Anderson in there lifting weights. And I sarcastically said to him, what are you doing? He goes, oh, I'm lifting weights. I couldn't have done that if we hadn't gone this morning, could you? And he goes, no. He goes, and I'm going home to get my hair cut. I'm going to cut the grass. It just, you got to keep your coaches fresh too.
Well, that's a very good
And
point.
I think that's what gets
Yeah.
missed in our profession. We grind and worry about the kids,
Yeah.
but we don't worry about the coaches.
Yeah.
Now, for me as an administrator, 7th, 8th grade football doesn't start till the middle of September.
Mhm.
So I've got time. I start preparing for our next opponent a day early. I just stay there in the office and watch film until I roll down the hill, watch 7th, 8th grade football, or drive up to wherever they're playing.
Mhm.
But for my staff, I said, I expect you guys to go home and spend time with your families. And, if you want to prepare and do other things, but do it at home.
Yeah.
Get away from here.
Yeah.
Unplug yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
And that dovetails perfectly into the final question that you have there, Ray. But this one's more specific to Coach.
He already answered the question that I was going to ask.
Yeah.
So I'm going to jump to the last one here. Has your coaching philosophy and approach evolved over the years?
Absolutely. I mean, I knew when I was at Festus, we were getting stale. I knew we were due for some changes. And it wasn't like the last year in 2019, I realized that. It was about 2017. We were out there for 3 hours. I think back then it's like, well, if you're not out there for 3 hours, Hillsboro's out working you, right? I get over to Hillsboro and we're out there for 3 hours. And if we're not out there for 3 hours,
Right.
this is out working you. So,
Right.
I mean, it's like a happy medium.
Right.
But I realized we conditioned after we were doing all this stuff. And I started talking and following the people, sitting in, the office. You talk about professional development. I spent a lot of time in Illinois talking to Brad Dixon, spent a lot of time talking to Tony Holler, all these other people doing different things and how to train our kids. And then I get to the point where I end up out at Hillsboro and I get to share those things. Well, Bill was doing a lot of those already, but then we just implemented a few that I had on my plate. I think you have to change as a coach. If you don't, you won't be coaching. You as a head coach,
Right.
And you'll get passed along.
Right.
You owe it to the kids. I mean, you can't. It's and they respect it. They see. I think the common question to kids like, where do you guys get all these ideas and stuff? Because every week, every day it's a different drill. It's not the same old
Right.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I tell them our classroom's outside. It's not inside. I don't
Right.
have a smart board. I have a whiteboard or an iPad now.
Mhm.
But my point is, we've got to keep the kids engaged in our practice schedule. We've got 2 groups going. Our younger kids are getting reps as well as our older kids are getting reps.
Oh,
So when you talk about, well, when's the JV get practice? They practice as long as the varsity does.
that's fantastic.
So we've got a systematic way of we're doing things and getting kids reps, run fits, pass coverage, the whole 9 yards. But it's, I came there with the idea, the thought and the idea, and we've tweaked it as a staff at DeSoto each of the last 2 years. And, I feel very strongly about our practice schedule right now as far as a teaching component, keeping our kids healthy and just how we go about doing business.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, we appreciate the time, and I know this is really only year 2 or 3 for you over here at DeSoto, and it's 3, so it's the amount of growth I've seen in the last 2 years. I mean, I don't know, you're getting much from the parents at all, or folks on the outside. But
Tremendous
amount.
The community. We talked about this today as a staff. We have goals within our program for certain things for our kids, and the community support there, the parent support. We talked about our mom's clinic before we came on the air. They just needed somebody to reach out to them and do it in a professional way, respectful way.
Right.
There's certain ways to go about asking for things, please and thank you. I think that goes a lot with people.
Yeah.
Be mindful of feelings. It's just and it's relationships. I tell all of our coaches, we bang on every door in the city of DeSoto for fundraising. What are we giving back to the community?
Right.
And for me, as an athletic director, I empower every program to have to do a community service project.
Yeah.
You've got to check that box for me some point during the 365 days if you're going to go out and do what you're saying you're going to do, and make sure that we're supporting those that are supporting us.
And when they see those athletes out in the community doing various things in the community as far as that service goes, that just goes a long way to building support for any of the athletic programs at this point.
I have always said, my first year we were 1-9, and I remember looking through the eyes of the kids to those stands that held 1,400 people, and they were packed. I go, why do people come support you guys? We have to do better.
Yeah.
I mean, you kids have support here. You just don't realize it. Now we've got a new stadium. Now we've got a new scoreboard. Now we've got new uniform. We've got a lot of new stuff going on, and it's just a tidal wave right now. And I told them, I said, you guys, I would give anything to be in your position right now.
Right.
To be a DeSoto football player right now in this moment, given all the good stuff that's happened to you. It doesn't happen by accident.
Right.
It happens because of hard work.
Yeah. That's right. Absolutely. With that, we wrap things up here. Coach, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you coming in and coming into the studio and hanging out with us for a little bit. And that's Coach Russ Schmidt from the DeSoto Dragons.
Hi, this is Bill Rubel with APB Storage. APB Storage is a locally owned and operated family business that offers the best storage solutions in the Jefferson County area. Our electronic gate gives you 24-hour access to your storage unit, and our state-of-the-art security system provides peace of mind and security. All of the units provide an easy access drive-up doors to allow a stress-free way to your unit. Come see why people prefer the APB storage experience. Give us a call at 636-464-5629 or visit us online at apbstorage.com.
Church is more than just an hour in a pew every Sunday. It's a community. It's where you can come as you are. It's a place where you can connect with God, learn from Scripture, and grow as you build relationships. It's a place where it's okay to be a work in progress. At Faith Community, you'll find an authentic group of people who are pursuing God and supporting one another along the way as we move from where we are to where God wants us to be. Wherever you're at on your journey, you are welcome here.
Well, welcome back to the Main Street Sports Show high school football preview show here. And we are very pleased to have on next the head coach of the Festus Tigers, Mr. AJ Ofadale. Coach, how are you today?
I'm doing good.
Are you enjoying having this interview in the air conditioning as opposed to us going out onto the field with you?
Yeah, it's a little bit different in here.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad we welcome you to our new studio here that we have. Before we talk about this season coming up and some of the exciting things happening over at your school. Let's talk a little bit about a very successful 2024 campaign, 11-3 overall record, undefeated in Mississippi Area Red Conference. Obviously, the state Class 4 runner-up. Correct me if I'm wrong, if my math is right. You lost about 13 players to graduation. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay. Open on the road at Rolla, and this is your sixth season leading the Tigers. If you would just briefly take us through a little bit of recap of last season and what it meant to you and your team.
For us last year, that season was it was a build. We had a lot of those guys that started for us in that season, in that state championship game, that were 3-year starters. Guys that took their lumps as sophomores, probably weren't ready to be playing varsity football yet physically, but became battle tested, did a fantastic job in the weight room year in and year out. So it's interesting. You look at some of those guys in their senior uniform pictures and senior action pictures, and they're completely different guys than what they were as these little skinny sophomores running around getting ran by and beat up on. And so for us, it was something we were really proud of, because anytime kids are committed, they stick to it, and they get some tangible reward for all the time they put in. And obviously we didn't get the ultimate goal, but I'm not a sum game person. I think there's value in all of those experiences. We were the first Festus Tigers football group to make it that far, to get to the state championship, and I think there's some value in that. And in the experience of itself, there's nothing like it. That was my second time participating in that event, and it's hard to describe how exciting it is to be part of that. So.
A lot of value in the journey there. And what would you, aside from those guys that maybe got some reps as underclassmen and developed over the time, what do you attribute the success to as much as possible?
Commitment to off season, commitment to being part of a program and not just being part of a team. I think, and especially in our current climate in sports, is we see a lot of jumping from team to team at the youth level. Travel teams, we go here and there, and you're part of a team seasonally, and there is no greater program. And so in football, especially at this level, to have success, you have to have a program. It has to be a 365-day endeavor, and kids have to learn how to commit to that. And that doesn't mean you don't play other sports and have other activities. You just learn how to balance those things out. You learn how to put your all into everything that you're doing. And, for us as coaches and athletic directors and all those things, we figure out how to set up our programs and our entire athletic organization in a way that serves as many kids as possible and as many kids' needs as possible. So.
And those are also great life lessons as well, not just about football.
Absolutely. Yep.
Excellent.
Yep.
Coach, looking back last season, obviously during that state championship game, what are the key lessons maybe learned, maybe positive and negative, for the returning players and staff coming into this season?
The biggest thing we want those guys to take from it, you can't feel like you're knocking on the door again. There's a process that has to start all over again. We got new faces, new people playing new roles. It's a new dynamic of the team. The schedule around you will be a new dynamic. So you have, all these things you have to take into account. So the biggest thing that we want our guys to understand is, it's not a next step the next logical step is the state championship. It's not that at all. This is a new season, a new start, a new process, and you're a new group with a new identity. And so last year was fun, but it's separate. So, tangibly beyond just understanding the situational dynamics, the other piece that they have to learn is, there's areas that we fell short. And then how do you address those areas? What do we do as part of our off-season process? And the obvious is the getting stronger, getting faster, becoming more flexible, injury prevention, anything we can do to become better athletes to begin with. But then us as coaches, we have to look and say, where did we schematically fall short? Where did we get taken advantage of? Where did we not do things as well? And then we have to match the new things that we need to do with our returning personnel, their experience level, their athletic traits, all those things. So, those are the things that we go through and we address. And then you reset the goals the same. The goals are going to be, we want to win our rivalry game against Hillsborough. That's a big deal. We want to win the conference championship. Sometimes those things, although North County is going to be a really significant football team this year, Coach Jones does a fantastic job. DeSoto is going to be drastically improved. You saw that last year, and they're continuing to build. And then Coach Freeman has established an identity at Windsor as a physical football team. Is going to come out and get after you. And they've established a program identity down there too. that their kids look to be bought into. So our conference is going to be a lot tougher. But the last few years, it's kind of ran through Hillsborough. So, it's our rivals. We want to win that game. We want to win our conference. We want to win the district. And again, these are some of the same faces as part of that district. And then, once you won the district, then depending on how the cards are dealt, you have an opportunity to get to that the big opportunity at the end. So the goals reset themselves, although it's a completely different cast of characters, a completely different script in terms of getting there. And hopefully we will have done a better job of preparing our kids if that opportunity arises.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Great answer there, Coach. You spoke to the commitment of football, 365-day commitment, not only for the player, but for the coaches too, and balancing that with other sports they may coach or the life outside of sports as well. And obviously with your position, it's strength and conditioning in that weight room. You get to see the guys a lot, see who's putting in the work, who maybe needs to put in more work. That being said, now that camp has started again, I don't think there's any surprises, but is anybody that you've been impressed by, either their gains in strength and conditioning or as they've physically developed, they've come to camp and you kind of raise an eyebrow with their ability?
Yeah, we definitely, we have several guys, and they're not necessarily new names, but different version of the same name that we saw before. The first person that jumps out to me is Antonio Pinkston. And he battled back from an injury his freshman year, started every game for us, was a really productive football player for us as a sophomore last year at defensive end. And he is not even recognizable physically from what he was a year ago. He's gained about 35 pounds. His strength numbers are through the roof, completely different athletically in terms of change of direction, explosion, all those things. And what I'm most proud about him is he's been so diligent in terms of setting goals, nutrition goals, weightlifting goals. He works with a really good private D-line coach. He works with our D-line coach in season, that guy off season. I mean, you couldn't pack more into an off season. And he was a really good thrower for us in track. First time ever doing it. And he went out and was a guy that got points for us in districts and as a javelin thrower and a shot put.
Oh, wow.
A shot put thrower. And so to the point, you can be completely dedicated to making yourself the best football player you possibly can while you play other sports. You take a vacation, you have a social life, and Antonio exemplifies that. So he's a kid that's really been a leader for us. He's been humble. Our two running backs, we got about close to 1,800 yards of returning rushing offense from those two guys. And last year they were kind of the two, water bug kind of guys. They were 152 pounds and shifty and quick and tough kids, great football players, but diminutive would be the word to use. And those guys have both gained. Cam Yates and Leonte Williams, our two running backs, have both gained between 20 and 25 pounds in the offseason. Gotten a lot faster, a lot stronger. It's been fun because when you have kind of the smaller back, it limits some of the things that you want to do from a play calling standpoint, from a protection standpoint. Do you want this guy isolated on a linebacker or a defensive end in protection? And now those guys have really made themselves complete football players in the pass game from a protection and a receiving standpoint. And then what they are in terms of getting the tough yards and some of those things to go with being explosive runners. And I may quote this wrong, but Leonte ran 11.4 this spring in track. Wow. Yeah. And I think the previous year he may have been 12 flat. He may have been a high 11 somewhere. He dropped significant time. So I'm really excited. And it showed up in summer practice so far where he, before he was a consistent, tough, productive runner for us, and now he's added this home run effect to it that has really showed up big in our summer activities. So we're excited about him.
That's a really great point about speed. Kids, the weight room just isn't for strength.
That's right.
It isn't just for strength.
That's right.
It's for speed too.
There you go.
For jumping, it's for leaping abilities, for a whole plethora of things.
Coach, how do you ensure that a team doesn't become complacent after such a successful season? And what's like the message to the players out there about what's next?
I think you just have to attack it directly all the time. You have to continue to remind them. I think part of it is maybe not even harping on the big picture as much as taking each individual player, giving them an honest evaluation of where they are, the things that they do well. Because that's the thing with all your players. Sometimes as coaches, we think, if you praise them too much, they're going to get complacent or they're going to, get the big head. They're going to be arrogant. They're not going to work. But I think you have to be very straight with your evaluation. You have to tell kids, these are the things that make you a good football player. This is what you bring to the table. where we see you as an asset based on these
Mhm.
traits. Here are the things that you don't do so well. And so we have to attack those things. And a lot of times there are things that you directly, by putting time into directly addressing them, but sometimes we don't necessarily give those kids an evaluation, so they don't know. If someone doesn't tell you, or they know what's wrong, but they don't know why. So
Yeah.
not very fast, but they don't know why they aren't very fast. And a lot of times there's a real significant why that you can address. And so for us, I think it's just about being in constant communication with your players about what they do well, what they don't do up to par, and then having a plan to address having a plan to utilize the strengths, and then having a plan to address what may be a point of weakness. And then, from there, I think there's always something tangible to work on once you've addressed that. There's no excuse. You know what you need to work on, so you can't be complacent because you have something to focus on and work on. So I think if you're real specific in that realm, I think you can avoid complacency with a real direct focus on what they need to be doing.
Awesome.
Well,
So-
that kind of leads into my next question, Coach. And I know it's early in camp and everything, but you know this as a coach and as a former player yourself. You reach a certain level of success, the target's on your back now. And the target's on the Festus Tigers now because of the level of success they've had both in the conference, the district, and then on the state playoffs. So not so much a physical standpoint, but how do you prepare the players mentally? Is there anything that you can do in your practice schedule or in your chalk talks to prepare them for the increased pressure now? Because when you're at the top of that hill, everybody's going to be fighting. Everybody's going to bring their A game against Festus.
Yeah, there's no question. For us, what we try to do in our practice structure all the way up until we're game planning for a team, we divide our team up into two teams basically. And, depending on a given year, it may be more difficult for it to be as deep as you want it to be. But so far, I've been lucky that we've had enough players to have two competitive groups. And so we assign a team either on the black team or the white team, and you play offense and defense on both of those teams. And so a lot of times what happens in practice, it becomes largely unproductive because your starters are playing against younger kids. And you can get away with murder technique wise. You can get away with murder effort wise sometimes. So
Just bull rushing,
yeah, and you get in a game, and all of a sudden somebody can punch back, and you're shocked because you haven't felt that until you're going against somebody else. And so we try to make our practices as competitive as possible to address the physical side. So if I am a starting offensive tackle, I have to go see a starting defensive end most of the time in practice, and I'm getting the right type of pressure. Now, the flip side is everyone's going to have maybe a guy that's a backup level guy next to him, but then you got to work through that too. And so that helps with the it's not going to be perfect all the time. And guys have to work and address, but it gives a lot of kids in the program very similar reps in terms of the plays they're running, and in terms sometimes with your younger kids, you don't give them the same experience in the full breadth of your offense or your defense.
Right.
So, this gives us opportunity that everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody's getting adequate reps at it, gives you a little bit more depth long term, especially get around mid-season. Kids have been doing it a while, but so that's one way that we address the heightened competition physically is we go against good all the time. If we're fortunate enough in a year that we can two platoon completely, then we really go good against good. And so that helps that. From the mental standpoint, I think you just have to break down and rationalize with kids. I mean, sometimes kids will see a program that they have never seen play before, but they've heard the name. And without even ever watching, they just assume they're better. They assume that in that town, the food tastes better, the water's colder, the math is trickier. I mean, it's, and so
Math is tricky.
yeah,
I
so
love that.
logically speaking, you have to help them understand, one, you guys are pretty good players yourself. It's kind of like the old Hoosiers movie where you go measure the basket and
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
10 feet tall
Yeah.
here too. Well,
Yeah.
a 300-pound bench press is a 300-pound bench presser no matter where you go.
Yeah.
Weights don't change. And so, one, if you can get those kids to have those adequate physical trait numbers, that helps a lot. Two, if you can adequately teach them skill and technique, because sometimes going to college camps and some of those things, they also, if you've prepared them correctly, they go and they can say, well, man, I am competitive against.
I can measure up against
can
somebody.
measure up. And so it's when you're the new kid in terms of kind of this upper level. And so I feel like we're a program that's emerging amongst some of the bigger schools reputation wise, and our schedule reflects that. There's teams that would play us previously that won't play us anymore. So, and I believe Hillsborough probably experienced that a few years in advance of us, where now we got to schedule up. So we're kind of, following in that path, and we're kind of in the same boat with them. But I love that though. I'd rather schedule up. I'd rather have exciting games. And
It's a good problem to
it's a
have.
good problem to have.
Yeah.
If you lose, you lose. But for us, we got a great system in our state that we still can go play the NFC East if you want to, and you still gonna have every opportunity in the world to win a state championship when it's all said and done. So, so for us, it's helping our kids understand that no, we are a good football program. We can compete at the top level. We have special players in our program, and we're developed the right way. So, and then the last piece of it is you get them as much as you can between 7-on-7, joint practice, whatever it is you do, you get them as much looks as they can against large school competition. And now there's nowhere else to go up. Like, you've seen the biggest people, you've seen the best people, and now you can compete. So let's go do it in our regular schedule. So,
Yeah.
Excellent.
Coach, last question. We'll let you go here. What do you think will be some strengths of the team this year, maybe different from years past?
I think from an offensive standpoint, I think we are going to probably be more versatile than we have been in quite a while, just in terms of our proficiency in every aspect of our game. I think personnel-wise, it sets up that way. We can put 2 tight ends on the field. We can put 2 backs on the field. We can go 4 wides. We can go, what we've been mostly is a 11 personnel, 1 tight end, 3 wides, 1 back team. We can be that. We can play action a little bit better now than we have. And a lot of this is just designed by coaches, just getting into being better at some of those things and doing and paying the right amount of time reps. So I think offensively, we also have 4 offensive linemen coming back. So that's the other who have starting experience. So that part of it too, it's not a bottom up teach. I mean, there's a level of experience coming in that we can get to things faster. So we probably have a wider variety of things. And then also a lot of self-scout in the offseason, saying, man, we have these horrible tendencies in what we do on offense, and now we can address those and be purposeful about breaking those, eliminating those from what we're doing, and being more balanced. So I think at this stage where we are, I think we have a chance with the number of guys we have coming back with experience on that side. I haven't mentioned Parker Perry, but I think Parker Perry at quarterback. I've had 2 Elite 11 finalists. I had another young man that just got hired by Kansas State and their coaching staff that was a great football, holds all the Rockbridge school record, played at Central Missouri. And then Cole Rickerman, when I first got here, who was a conference player of the year caliber player and owns all the
we know that guy.
Yeah, know him a little bit. But I think Parker is in that conversation. I mean, and I don't want to, obviously not to put pressure on him and what he's done for a young man who's only played a little bit, but he has an opportunity to be a really special quarterback with what he can do, not just throwing the ball, but how he processes and his mental approach to the game. And so that gives us an opportunity, with all those things combined, I think we can have an opportunity to be very good on the offensive side of the ball.
Excellent. Well, Coach, we appreciate you coming in. Thanks for coming out into the studio, get a little cool here a little bit. And good luck to you this season. And I'm sure we'll see you down the road a couple games here. So.
Looking forward to seeing some Festus Tiger football.
Absolutely. AJ Ofadale from the Festus Tigers.
Are just meant to do what they do. Devoted, skilled, solving problems before there are problems. Just like the team at Crystal Heating and Cooling. 60 years of teamwork and dedication. To Crystal, you're more than a customer. You're a friend. Top reviews, decades of experience keeping your home safe and comfortable through any weather. And Crystal Care Club with included maintenance and free financing options. For 60 years, Crystal puts their heart into your comfort. Crystal Heating and Cooling.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Main Street Sports Football Previews show for high school football here in our area. And we are pleased to be joined now by the head coach of the Hillsboro Hawks, Mr. Bill Sukarski. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're glad that we can have you in and have you come into the air conditioning for a little while here and get rested up. Before we talk about how this season may go for you and how things are going so far at camp, let's talk a little bit about last year. We have an overall record of 5-6 for Hillsboro Hawks, 3-1 in conference play. However, lost to Perryville, I believe, in the district playoffs. Now, I had you down, and correct me if I'm wrong, as far as losing approximately about 22 players to graduation.
We had about 20 players that graduated last year. So
okay. And you will open up on the road at Moberly this year.
That is correct, yes.
That'll be an interesting contest. 6th season at the helm of the Hawks already. Boy, it just seems like time's flying there.
Yeah, it seems like COVID was yesterday, and, here we are.
Absolutely.
2025.
If you would kind of take us through the 2024 campaign for you, it was kind of in my opinion, looking from an outsider looking in, kind of a strange season, up and down season for you. Injuries obviously played a big part in that, but you kind of briefly recap that as far as your context and take.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we lost Preston mid-season when he had to have surgery on his finger, and anytime you lose a kid at that caliber at the quarterback spot, that's a big loss for you, an all-state kid. We wish him well. He's doing real well up at North Dakota State, so just keeping in contact with him. But yeah, we started out, had a weird game week one that actually didn't finish, and ended up having to take a loss by 7 points, and then was up week two with SLU, and tied with 2 minutes to go when they scored. Lose that by 7, and then we lose our third game of the year again by 7. So really, we were kind of in a lot of those games, it was really 1 or 2 plays. We had a couple open passes we missed in both, and really in all 3 of those games. Where if we hit those guys, maybe the outcome's a little bit different. But that's it's we told our kids last year and this year it's a good quality schedule. You got to play well right out of the gate. With SLU being a little bit bigger school, having more depth, and our kids handled that environment pretty well up there. But that's kind of how the season was. It was kind of really back and forth, just kind of couldn't really ever get over the hump, and we did have some injuries to some significant players. Logan Jarvis was our starting left tackle. We lost him against Festus. We're hoping to get him back. He's supposed to get cleared here in about a week or 2 from a knee injury. So
good.
Getting those guys back. Obviously, the big thing when the run we had the few years before that, I always tell people, you got to stay healthy. That's a big thing in any sport, but football in particular. And last year we just unfortunately kind of injuries piled up on us at the end of the year, and just kind of caught up with us.
I'm sure.
Absolutely. Coach, are there some areas that you believe that are going to need significant attention this season compared to last season?
Our wide receiver core, we got to step up there. We've had some kids that have worked really hard who've flashed. They just haven't played varsity football besides Austin Ross, who played last year as a sophomore for us. So that's a position that we've got to definitely have to grow up. We had some guys last year. Ian Phillips had a really good year for us. Ian kind of waited his turn because he had kids that were pretty good receivers ahead of him, the class before him, and we had some guys that were some good receivers in the class before that. So that's a position we have to definitely grow up early on. I guess the one bright spot in Preston's injury was that Braxton came in and I thought did a pretty good job at quarterback for us when he came in and did some good stuff. And so we kind of got a head start in knowing what we have in Braxton and everything and his ability, and he runs the option real well for us, whether it's under center or out of gun. So that experience there, kind of gives us some experience at the quarterback spot. He ended up starting 5-6 games for us at quarterback, so that's good to have Braxton returning there. And we got some guys up front that returned. That was kind of a position we had a lot of injuries at last year, ankles on guys that they were out 2 weeks, and so we had a lot of guys get playing time, but we were kind of musical chairs a little bit last year. So getting those guys with experience coming back, hopefully can prove beneficial for us.
Yeah, you hate to have injuries cause guys get inserted in the lineup, but the bright spot is them getting those snaps in those games. That should bode well for this season for you, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. We have some running backs that I think will step up this year. We've been blessed to have the quality backfield we've had the last 4 or 5 years at Hillsboro, and so there's guys that haven't got as many reps, but they're hardworking kids. They run the ball hard. They're smart kids, and we've got a few wrinkles here and there. Landon Gonzalez, he's a big kid, and we've kind of moved him really around on offense this year for us. He started at linebacker as a sophomore. He was a kid who played most of the year with a broken hand, and so we couldn't really use him on offense this year. And we've moved him around in the backfield, out at tight end, out at H-back, and really tried to stress getting him the football.
Sure. Now, we talked about, Ray asked you about, some of the areas you're trying to address here, prior to the season start for the team. But going in and looking at right now, aside from some of these guys getting some reps last year due to injury, what do you feel are some of the strengths of the team going in?
I think definitely, some camaraderie up front because of the experience those guys have. It's a good group. Our O-line, D-line guys, they've worked well together, and they seem to enjoy and have fun. That's an area you want to be sound at. And
well, you bring up a good point. I don't mean to interrupt you there, but it's one thing for the guys up front to be good and talented, but to be able to work together and enjoy working together, that kind of chemistry is what creates a great offensive line, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Ultimately, those guys don't get the visual recognition that they should in a good season when you have a great year. And oftentimes, when a play goes bad or whatever, if a sack happens, those guys get the blame. But it's a group that as we tell those guys every year, for us to be good, you have to be good, and it starts with those guys up front. So, Caden Romaine, he was I think the one starter we had last year who didn't miss a game due to injury, and he's left off, and he's had a pretty good fall camp so far.
Awesome. Now, beyond just the win-loss record here, what are your primary goals? I know each year it's usually a little different, but what's the primary goals this year for the Hillsborough Hawks?
Are just our standard goals that we talk to our kids every year is competing for the conference championship and a district championship. I think if we can put ourselves in position to do that, I have a lot of respect for not just the teams but the coaches within our own conference, which overlaps into our district at the same time. With a lot of our district opponents being conference opponents, if we can compete for those and win those, then I feel good. We've got a shot to make a run, and we felt that way the last 3 or 4 years. Last year we lose by Festus by 7, week 5, and like us the year before they play for a state title. So you're that close at times, and I guarantee you, Coach O'Fadale, he told those guys, going into last year, the same thing. Hey, you guys lost to, Hillsborough came back and beat us by 1 in the district, so we were that close to being right there with those guys and have an opportunity to make a run too. So you always feel that way, and that's always a goal we have, just a standard we set within our program.
Little incremental steps to get over those humps, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Coach, with the guys that you had, you lost to graduation last year, and some of them, occupying leadership roles on the team. Who do you see emerging now this season, as some of your leaders?
Our 2 linebackers, Landon Gonzalez. He started as a sophomore last year. He's a junior. He's a kid who he doesn't, as they say in the weight room, he doesn't skip a rep. Whether it's, just by effort. He's a high effort kid, and he naturally leads because of that. Another leader we have is Jackson Marks. He's a high-quality kid who plays baseball for us, too. He's a kid who started his sophomore year at linebacker, and so that experience with those 2 guys. And anytime that, the middle of your defense has that experience returning, that's always big. And both those guys have good size. We've been blessed to have size at that spot. For the last, really, since I've been the head coach at Hillsborough, we've had good size there, going all the way back to Tyler Watson and those guys. So those are 2 guys, defensively that have, you can tell when we practice that they're going to give the best effort they have and kind of have everybody else follow. And then both those guys offensively will play a big role for us as well. So
excellent. Well, Ray and I got to see Jackson Marks quite a bit in the spring.
Baseball.
Pretty good job on the hill for Hillsborough.
Yeah, he's a pretty talented kid. He's a sideline to sideline kid for us. He can really run at the linebacker spot, and offensively he's a kid we can get the ball to, and he's another kid who played with a hand injury last year, so we weren't able to use him and land in on offense as much as we wanted to last year. But we kind of joked as coaches, we got 2 inside linebackers with 2 hands total because the other 2 were clubbed up last year. That did change up some things we had to do, but other kids got some offensive experience in different spots there.
Yeah,
sure.
Coach, folks are wanting to know, like inquiring minds, like the National Enquirer here. What does your depth look like at quarterback this year?
We have 4 kids who in each class. So we have Braxton, who's our senior quarterback, and another kid, Aiden Fleming, is a good athlete. Who'll probably play some defense for us. He's our junior quarterback, and Preston Ross is a sophomore. And we've got a really talented group of freshmen. And Cody Reese is our freshman quarterback, and he's an endless worker too as a freshman. So he brings a lot of leadership just even as a young kid, just because of his work ethic and all those guys. Those are 4 guys that they don't miss anything, and when you have that at that spot, that's key. So we have good depth there. Obviously we don't want to have an injury to any of those guys because it changes not just a Friday night, but it changes the Monday night what you do.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realize that in terms of. Yeah, you have Friday football, but when you got you have young kids in your program, you're playing Monday nights too, and so things that happen, injuries throughout a year, how does that affect what you have to do the next week, because we do believe we're not going to go I know they say you get 6 quarters, but we were actually talking about that today with a couple of kids. Like, hey, if this kid's going to play 4 quarters Friday, we're not going to play him 2 quarters on a Monday, even though we can technically.
Yeah.
It's not good. I mean, there's a reason why people play one football game a week at the higher levels, and so
Right.
putting a kid through that, their health is more important than having putting that kid out there on a Monday if he's played 4 quarters on a Friday.
Absolutely, that's a great point, and a little tougher to do at smaller schools, but at a school Hillsborough size, that should be something you should be able to strive for. I would think, Coach. I know you've got the eye on who's putting in the work on the off season in the weight room, things of that nature. But coming to camp and stuff, coming around this part of the year now, any guys really kind of stand out to you, or even surprised by either their the work that they've put in, or the ability, as these young men physically mature and things like that?
I think our 2 of our senior running backs and our junior running back, our 2 seniors, have done some really good stuff this summer. And Joseph Jordan, and then we have Clayton Brown, and then Trey Zimmerly is a junior running back for us. Those 3 guys, like I said, they've last year running back we had Aiden Rowland and we had Chris Duncan, and so those guys didn't get as many carries, but they've really done a good job, I thought, in camp this week and everything. And so just those guys getting opportunities. Like I said, if you look at our history the last 5 years, we've been really blessed in our backfield, and guys have had to wait their turn.
Right.
I guess you ask all of them, because back when we had Peyton, Austin, and Jackson, those guys were sharing reps. Each of those guys would have wanted 20 carries a game, and a lot of times they got 13 or 14 because we tried to split the carries between them. So having quality depth you always want, and it forces guys to have to kind of wait their turn. But we've definitely been pleased with what we've seen out of those guys so far.
Excellent.
Excellent. Well, Coach, we appreciate you coming in, talking to us a little bit about Hillsborough this year, and good luck to you. Well, I know we'll see you down the road here. We've got a couple of games on the docket here we're hoping to lock down and get you guys covered. So appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the coverage.
Coach Bill Saharsky from the Hillsborough Hawks. Continuing on with our large schools here, we've got the Windsor Owls. We're going to talk a little Owls football here with Coach Lee Freeman. Coach, how you doing, sir?
Doing well, thank you.
Awesome. And you guys have had a really, to me, just some great strides over the last year or so, and a lot of things to me just putting a lot of those Coach Lee Freemanisms in place, and I think that's paid off for the Windsor Owls.
I agree. I do think that we have made some strides. I think that we're probably not right where we want to be right now at this point in time, but we're a couple days into camp right now, and what I have seen is a lot of retention from the learning that occurred last year with our younger guys, and I've seen some good leadership out of our seniors and juniors. And right now we have, when I think back on all of the kids that I've coached in the past, we've got some kids that are, that are pretty talented right now, and that can play and that understand the game. And when Coach Schmidt at DeSoto, he's going to talk about football IQ and those sorts of things. And I can say this, that the retention that our kids have had from last year to this year has been probably 90%. So we're able to pick up where we left off a little bit last season, and I do know that we had a couple losses last year that really stung for our kids and for our community. And at times we were really competitive, and at times we kind of faltered a little bit and stumbled. But I do think our ceiling is high right now.
Awesome.
Well, Coach, we want to talk obviously more about camp going on right now and looking towards the future here in this season. Let's go back just a moment here, just kind of briefly recap things from last year, 2024 campaign. Overall record of 4-6, winless in conference play, but some pretty good games there. Lost to Perryville in the Class 4 District 1 playoffs. Lost approximately, at least to my math, about 5 players to graduation. Is that correct?
That's correct. We had 5 seniors last year on the team, and we actually We lost Landon Robbins early in the season, so he was unable to participate and finish the season. But so really, technically 4 seniors on the field at the end of the season.
Correct. Okay. And then you open up your your season here at home against Herculaneum, and I don't want to get ahead and jump the gun, but there's a good chance we're going to be at that game, right, Ray?
I believe so.
All right.
And we'll be happy to have you.
Coach, as I said, we lost very few players to graduation, but quarterback Luke Patterson did graduate. Now, your stable of your 1,000-yard rushers return, as does your entire receiving core. What are you looking to accomplish during this camp and preseason as far as, maybe filling that slot at quarterback? Is there an open competition, or is somebody going to step into that job? And how does that look right now for you?
We have a couple of guys that are going to take snaps right now, and we're going to kind of work that competition through camp and see where we're at. I do think that as far as our team is concerned, I don't know if it's possible to graduate, 5 seniors and still be young. You think your age is going to increase a little bit, but I think we're right at 11 seniors right now this year, so that's not bad, but it's not where we want it to be. We're really, really heavy with our sophomores and our freshmen right now, and that's good. So the numbers, as long as they continue to build, and we we'll have enough guys to create that competition, which is really what we need in order for us to get where we want to be.
Sure.
Absolutely. What does your depth look like right now at quarterback? Is there still competition going on? Anybody kind of rose to the top for you yet here?
Sure. Well, if you remember last year, we had a freshman playing for us in Jet Black, who played a lot of free safety. And I say a lot; he played every game. He's been one of those guys that played a lot of quarterback in our 9-10 games. Counting quarters and making sure, so he played a couple of quarters here and there with the JV guys. And he's probably right now, if I had to say there's a front runner, I would say that it's Jet. We've got a couple other guys that are working in there and taking snaps, and we're trying to develop some quarterbacks, which is probably, this is a unique team. This is one of those teams where we're really coming across. There's not a line of guys that want to play quarterback for us right now.
Okay.
So you have to be smart, you have to be physical, and you have to understand we're probably not going to throw the ball a whole lot if we don't have to. So if we're throwing the ball, that means something's wrong, basically. So Jet's kind of taken on that role, and we'll probably lean on him a little bit and look toward him. But Ethan Cobb is another one that can take some snaps for us, and if things get really bad, then we've got Logan Wilson, who is was our leading rusher last year, that he'll be able to hand the ball off a little bit and throw. So we've got some guys that are in line.
Well, we hope to get Black's name in there a whole lot, because it's got to be the best name in the conference, I would think.
It's a very unique name.
Very unique. Sure. Now, Logan Wilson and Jack Kuda were your leading tacklers last year, and they're returning, correct?
Yeah, both of those are returning.
And then who do some of those guys we need to watch for this year emerging on the defensive side of the ball?
On the defensive side, right now it's real early. It's hard to tell. Kyle Haneke is plays some DB for us and wide receiver, and Kyle is one of the young men on our team that has really worked effortlessly, or maybe at reaching potentials that I didn't really think that I was going to see out of him. But he's been a pleasant surprise throughout the off season. And, we're getting into summertime right now, and we're getting into camp, and we're finally starting to do. But these guys have been working since December, essentially, as far as weight room and conditioning and strength conditioning with our coach there at Windsor. So we've got a lot of guys that can potentially step up and be players for us. Ethan Cobb, again, on the defensive side, maybe a bright spot. Tegan Gannon is a player that we're going to try to develop a little bit, play that inside linebacker spot. Defensively right now, Chuck Gabriel, who played tight end for us and outside linebacker last year. Chuck's returning, and he's going to be a senior, and super disciplined kid, really smart, shows up every day, does exactly what we ask him to do. So, I think those are some bright spots. From a defensive line standpoint, Jaden Grindell, who played offensive tackle for us last year, and will probably move to that center spot on offense, but he'll play some defensive end, and he's got a good motor, and he's physical, he's smart. So, I expect some good things from him also.
That's an interesting combo: center on offense and defensive end
Yeah,
on defense.
He's got the ability to, he's intelligent. He pays attention. He's extremely technical, and he can move.
I was going to say he's got to have some wheels on him. Yeah. I would think so.
So, yeah.
Coach, what do you see as some of your strengths the team has got going into this season?
Well, I think if you look at everything that happened over the course of last season and the players that we lost, and we had to replace 3 senior offensive linemen, and one of those being Evan Wessels, and then Gannon Duranja and Jack Heath. So those 3 guys being gone, we had to find some young guys that we can plug in. And I think right now, if I had to say, I would say that I'm going to do my very best to try to develop our offensive line to be the strength of our team right now.
Awesome.
Well, obviously, yeah, because of what you do and the type of offense you run, it's got to start right there for sure. But I'm going to tease a little bit here, Ray, because we're going to talk, and maybe in another show that you'll be seeing along with this, about how young talent is developed at Windsor. And that leads into this next question about identifying and nurturing talent within the younger ranks of the program, the freshmen, the JV. You said you're going to be heavy on JV this year. Now that you have another year under your belt, do you feel like you have a better handle on identifying that young talent coming up?
Absolutely. The more you can be around the students and more you're around those guys, the more you learn them and their personalities. And the more you know about a young player, the better off you're going to be, and you can kind of manipulate things the way you need to in order to help them reach their full potential. So I think we've got a really good group of young guys. I think our old guys are, they're definitely battle tested because they've been playing for a long time. So some of that out of necessity and some of that out of talent. But when we look at our team, Logan Wilson is, he's the cornerstone of our team right now. And, from that leadership standpoint and from that productivity standpoint on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. So I think our younger guys look up to him a lot, and I think he does a really good job of leading. And it really is just going to take that one game to turn things around for us, I think. And hopefully, we'll get to the point where we start believing a little bit more.
Sure.
Awesome. Coach, you enter your second season here. Are you seeing any, comfort level, if you will, going into this second season here with the Lee Freeman style of football, both on the offense or defense side?
I don't know that comfort is any term I'll use as a high school football coach. I think you get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Right.
The unknown is always the scary thing there. So there are some, like I said, whenever you talk about the retention of what the kids learned last year and what they're able to piece together already this year throughout camp, even though we're just a couple days in, you can tell that there's, that they understand the philosophy behind what we're trying to do a little bit better. And I think that, as we progress through the season, we're like every other high school football team in America. If we stay healthy, we got a shot. If we have some injuries or, sicknesses that roll around, then we're going to be in that boat struggling to stay above water. So.
Right.
That, as you said, everybody right now that got that clean slate and kind of that mindset going in for sure, for the season. Coach, you talked about Logan Wilson, some of his leadership, the guys look up to him on the team. What are some of the other guys on the team that you think will hopefully will emerge as leaders for you?
Well, right now, really, it's interesting because every day that I am around those guys, whether it's in the weight room or whether it's a practice or on the field, off the field, there's always another one that does something good, that does something the right way, or that does something that people could look up to or people could mimic, or as an older player and a younger player, you want those guys to try to build that culture, build that expectation that goes on in the locker room and in the classrooms. So with that being said, to answer your question, Brandon Mahome is one of those guys that's kind of stepped up as a leader for us over the last couple days, and he'll be a junior, but he's got some limited experience, and I think he's made a lot of progress. Chuck Gabriel again is one of those guys that we're looking to. Tommy Broderick, who was an offensive guard for us last year. Tommy's an outstanding kid. He's an outstanding student. Really smart. Him and Jaden Grindell. So between Tommy and Jaden, Brandon, Logan, Kyle, as I mentioned before, Chuck Gabriel, Jet Black, those guys right now stick out in my head as guys that you can really build a program around. And as far as their leadership and as far as their approach to their day-to-day business, I think we've got a lot of pieces of the puzzle in place.
Well, Coach, and I'm glad you mentioned too your guard and what a smart student he is, because as you well know, the offensive linemen are always the smartest guys on the field.
100%.
And Matt Bates was here. Matt would echo that.
He would totally agree with you. Yeah, absolutely. Coach, what are some of the challenges that you face in changing the culture? Coming over from Hillsboro a couple of years ago, I'm sure attitudes surrounding the Windsor football program. There were some adjustments that needed to be made. What kind of challenges did you face with that?
Whenever I got here, I didn't really know what to expect, and I'm going to give credit where credit's due. Coach Funston, he put a lot of work in as far as changing the culture of the team and the attitude and the approach. And so really I was fortunate because, like I said, we don't have, we don't have troublemakers. We don't have problem makers on our team right now. We've got a lot of guys that are focused. They want to win. Teaching them how to do that and what that looks like on a day-to-day basis from November all the way through, October. It's a long season. It's a long grind. It is, I could not do this job without, with the help of the assistants, and I could not do this job appropriately without, Coach V, who's our strength coach at Windsor. He does an outstanding job with our kids all year round. As far as I'm concerned, he's the best strength coach in the state of Missouri. So, looking at those guys and what they did prior to me getting here, as far as, whittling down, some of the issues off the field that you have to deal with in order to build culture. Yeah. We're really in a good position with that, and our kids are focused. And like I said, it's just going to take that one thing, that one light bulb moment for those guys to realize, hey, we're not far behind as maybe some people might think.
Right.
So again, it's just a trust in the process, and it's doing the work, and it's understanding that, eventually you have to make the decision. I've committed myself to playing this game. I've committed myself to doing everything and showing up every day. And, I'm not going to let somebody take that away from me.
Right. Awesome. Well, Coach, we appreciate you being here, and good luck to you this season. And we will see you week 1.
I appreciate that.
There you go. All right. So there's a breaking news there from Live Stream STL. Herky and Windsor at Windsor. So for week 1 for us here. So Coach Lee Freeman, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it. Coach Lee Freeman from the Windsor Owls.
Thank you, guys.
Well, that wraps up our football preview for 2025 here, and we Hope that you can join us each Friday night on Friday Night Blitz on Livestream STL. You can check that out on livestreamstl.tv and on our Roku channel. Just search Livestream STL on your Roku. Download that particular app, and you'll be able to watch it on your TV. Jeff, it's been a fun show.
Fun times, a lot of insights from our coaches, and I know they're itching to go. I'm itching to go. Are you all ready to go? Are you ready for some football?
We hope so, and thanks for watching today, our football preview.